hey there. Welcome once more to VGMporium. I'm your host, Rage Cage, and today we're going to be listening to some Gems Jams. Oh yes, Gems, the Genesis editor for music and sound. Now, it was used by primarily American composers, but there's a few Europeans kind of sprinkled in there with usage, and the majority of the music made with it, let's see, it could be described as tinny, farty, flarpy, grady, scratchy, thin, twarmpy, all around just kind of samey. But in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing with it, you can get some really good stuff out of it, like this tune here. This is the theme music for B.O.B, composed by Rudis. And let's see, Rudis himself has done a lot of music for some Lynx games, Clacks, and Hard Drivin'. You could say he does a fine job here. You know, the one thing about the Gems is that, it came preloaded with about 100 so patches that are all just kind of equivalent, like trying to equate to like certain instruments and stuff. And they had the option to actually create their own patches, but for most composers using this software, they just didn't. They just used the patches that were there and maybe modified them a little bit. But for the most part, we're like it comes down to the composition of the tracks and some of the patches they chose to use along with it that are kind of set these tracks I'm going to be playing you today apart from the ones that are a little bit more on the not so good side. So now about this game B.O.B or Bob. So you play as Bob, a teenage robot with tood, because this is the 90s and all these characters gotta have some maximum tood. And he borrows his dad's space car to go pick up his date, but on the way he crashes it and ends up crashing onto a planet, like another planet, and has to work his way through multiple levels, using guns to shoot at enemies and gadgets to get around in other places and stuff like helicopter or trampoline and stuff in order to get to his girlfriend to go on a date. And so this is basically just a side-scrolling run and gun, trying to create like a new mascot like everybody else was. And I don't know much more about this game. I haven't actually played it before. I think I might have emulated it years ago, but I don't remember much about playing it. Before we move on, I'd like to note that all the tracks that we're going to be hearing today, I actually played through this device I have called the Mega Blaster 2, created by Aidan Lawrence. It is basically a board that has the YM2612 sound chip and the SN76489 sound chip on it, and you just load the VGM files, like .vgm or .bgz files, onto a little SIM card. You pop it in there, and you actually play the tracks through real hardware. So all the songs you're going to be hearing today have been rendered through that real, like those real sound chips, and re-recorded. And so you're going to get like nice, kind of like some fuzz, some gritty, like the way how it's supposed to sound a little cleaner too. So I'm a gosh darn nerd, and I'll nerd out to you about these here sound chips in a bit. But first, we're going to get on to our next track, which is going to be Coffee Break / Continue from Garfield, Caught in the Act, composed by Dwight Stone. that was Coffee Break / Continue from Garfield, Caught in the Act, composed by Dwight Stone. And what?
But I am not eating lasagna. I am drinking coffee.
Hey, you don't go around taking other people's mics like that. I don't care if you're the only other famous orange cat in the world. You get on out of here.
You will regret this point. I'll be back. You will see.
Hey, sorry about that, folks. I didn't see him come in here, and he just kind of swooped in, grabbed my mic, and well, you heard that. Come to think of it, something seemed a little off about him. Maybe not quite the real deal. Possibly a Uber fan that just has gone a little too deep. Well, hopefully he won't be coming back. Anyway, Dwight Stone. He's composed music for Jam at Street Hockey 95, Tristan de Prey, I hope I pronounced that right, Star Wars Arcade for the 32X, Bonkers, and Eternal Champions. And about this game, it's, your standard licensed platformer. You play as Garfield, gets sucked into a TV, and goes through stages that are like, movies and TV shows. So, there you go. Not much more to it. And as far as music goes, there's a nice sounding yet almost farty bass. The other FM patches are, nice sounding, like not too annoying. But the standout here are those PSG arps just coming in nice and strong here. You can't forget about those nice beefy percussion samples there, a little crunchy, but really nice sounding. Let's get a little bit more into the gems here. So, it was created by Jonathan Miller, Bert Sloan, Chris Grigg, and Mark Miller. It was commissioned to them by Sega of America, create a program that makes it easier to create music for the Sega Genesis, because the only other way would be to program it, through hexadecimal and all these values and stuff, which is the way how the Japanese composers did it, because, they've been doing it for so long with, the home computers that have been going on since, the late or early mid-'80s. And so what they created was a DOS-based user interface, which was MIDI interactive. So you could actually visually see all the different settings, parameters, go in, create your melodies, choose your patches, modify them if you wanted. Most didn't. And and also set these crazy little macros, CCs and macros called mailboxes, I guess. There's actually a video on GST channel called How to Make Sega Genesis Music in 1994 on YouTube. And he goes into some really good details about about this software. So I would definitely suggest you go check it out. I'm gonna put the link in the show notes. So yeah, and GST channel in general, you should just go and subscribe to him, because he creates awesome mixtapes, and has just nice little video essays talking about certain video game music, softwares and creations and all. So yeah, check him out. So now moving right along to our next track. I kind of found this one a little neglected in the Sonic section, so I decided to kind of bring it out and, give it some fresh air. So we've got Toxic Caves from Sonic Spinball, composed by Howard Drossin. Yeah, now we're getting to that really funky stuff. This was Toxic Caves from Sonic Spinball, composed by Howard Drossin. And I'd like to note that with those brass stabs, you could probably hear a little bit of that distortion kind of trailing off. That's the magic of that Mega Blaster 2 running through that real YM2612 FM sound chip. Real-time buzzy goodness. So now let's go back to 1993. You've just finished playing Sonic 2. You had the best time of your life with it. Now you're ready for more. You're excited because you hear tell that Sonic 3 is possibly getting made. And so, you're just clamoring for more Sonic, more Sonic. So to kind of fill that void, Sega of America decided to take it upon themselves to create another Sonic game while, the Sega of Japan was busy working on Sonic 3. And they created Sonic Spinball to give all the Childhoons the Sonic they wanted. And it was not very much what they were wanting. So now if you're not familiar with Sonic Spinball, it's basically just pinball with Sonic. And the stages are big, weird, very difficult, not very forgiving. And the weirdest part of it was based off of the Archie comics version of Sonic, not the in-game Sonic that we knew playing on the Sega Genesis. And the music was very, very different. As you can hear, it's kind of not that really nice melodies or bass lines. Are the patches are weird, different, grungy, kind of slightly tinny. But as a kid, I remember I did not care for this music at all. But as the years have gone on, it's grown on me. It's kind of got that New Jack Swing feel to it, and I like me some New Jack Swing. And the music from this game, and in particular this track, is a little foretelling of what we would get in Sonic and Knuckles, because Howard Drossin would go on to compose the music for Sonic and Knuckles. And what else has he composed is, let's see here, The Ooze, Die Hard the arcade game, go on to do Afro Samurai and Splatterhouse the 2010 game, and he also did the music for Sonic the Black Knight, which I don't know anything about that one, except that it's Sonic with a gauntlet and a sword, and he has a fire on his chest or something, I don't know. But what I do know is that Mr. Drossin here is using the Gems driver at to its strength here. You creating this really nice, funky, New Jack's swingy kind of sound with it. So now up next, I've selected you a real oddball here, as game and music. So it is the track for Cheetahmen 1 tune and Mind's Eye 2 tune for the Action 52 multi-game cartridge, composed by one of the creators of the Gems driver, Mark Miller. That was Cheetahmen Tune 1 / Mind's Eye Tune 2 from the Action 52 multi-game cartridge, composed by Mark Miller. This one's such a silly, gunky, funky tune for a weird set of games, per se. I know the Cheetahmen games is a kind of like an action side-scroller game they were trying to create. Again, mascots. mascots, trying to make some kind of IP that was going to take off. They were getting ready to shoot off a bunch of products for it, and it just flopped hard. And then Mind's Eye, I'd imagine, is maybe some kind of puzzle game or something. And the rest of the games were made up of just kind of like, knockoffs of more popular games. Other games like, puzzlers, shoot 'em ups, beat 'em ups, action games, whatever, what have you, and they're all just very basic, not good. And about this music, just one day I was just walking and I decided to just listen through the whole soundtrack, all the tunes for this game, and I can confidently say that majority of them are that flat, tinny, twarmpy, farty, just uninspired, kind of like you can kind of tell that Mark here was, just kind of cramming to get a lot of these tunes out. But there are some standouts. This track in particular being one of them, where he just gave himself the time to make something that's kind of, fun and funky in sound. It's a little farty, has some of those sounds, but it's really, I like it. I like this one. And speaking of Mark Miller, what else he has composed is Kid Chameleon, Earthworm Jim, and the first one, and X-Men 2, Clone Wars. And he, along with, it's Chris Grigg, helped to design the user interface of the Gems driver, because these two guys were making music and they wanted to make something that they could use and knew that other musicians would be able to use. Though unfortunately most of those musicians again didn't really use it to its fullest potential. And I feel that Mark did, because which will be evidenced in this next track I got coming up here for you is Flight Term from Robocop vs. Terminator, composed by Mark Miller. Now, if that wasn't one of the scungiest, funkiest techno jams you ever done heard, that was Flight Term from Robocop vs. Terminator, composed by Mark Miller. Yeah, that funky bass with those really grindy, just like synth pads coming in, and all those like kind of like cool sounds coming in and out, and then the kick patches, decent enough, and then that weird open hi-hat, and then that sample of the female voice saying Terminator just kind of popping in every once in a while. Pretty cool. But one of the more interesting things, you're pretty sure heard at that very beginning of the track, is that the periodic noise there, which is when you take the noise channel, you sacrifice the third pulse channel on the SN76489, and it creates a kind of like a pulse of a different, slightly smaller width, kind of giving it like that high pitch, kind of buzzy pulse sound, and it's kind of a really cool, like, when it's used. Like, you know, you don't really hear it used too much, but like in a few American composers do end up using it for their tracks, you know, especially in like ones that are composed for the Sega Master System and the Game Gear, which use the SN76489 for their sound chip. And to continue on this nerd train here, so the YM2612 sound chip, or also known as the OPN2, which is preceded by the YM2203, the OPN, and the YM2608, the OPN-A, is a 4-up FM sound chip created by Yamaha. It has a carryover feature from the previous OPN chips, which is where you can take the third FM channel and split it into 4 separate channels, you know, so like one operator per channel. And so you can take, you know, 2 channels at a time, like so 1 carrier, 1 modulator, and create 2-op instruments to be playing, so you have 2 extra channels to go, or use all 4 as separate instruments, just as simple waves and all. So, you know, some cool things that can be done with that. It also has an LFO, which affects all channels. Like, you can't turn it on, but like you can set how each channel is affected by it. And then last but definitely not least is the function where you can take the 6th FM channel and turn it into a DAC 8-bit PCM sampler. So you mostly used for percussion samples, or in the case of this track, Mark uses it to play a vocal sample. You know, somebody just saying Terminator. You can also use it for, like, you know, little like instrument things, like, you know, if you wanted to actually pitch, like, you know, load up instruments at, you know, their pitches and all, and then play it like that, you could do that, you know, like how Sunsoft did with like the NES's sample channel, the DPCM. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. That Sunsoft bass. But yeah, cool things can be done with this chip. Now, getting off Nerd Ass Express here, tell you about a little bit about this game here. You play as Robocop, who has reassembled himself in the future to stop Skynet. And he must use various weapons to take on the Terminator robots, as well as a couple of Ed 209s that show up here and there. And it's in the case of Robocop, it would be more like a walk and gun game instead of a run and gun, because he doesn't move too fast. I don't know, this game's just more wacky 90s franchise goobly-gob. And we're gonna carry on to something that truly does represent the 90s. So we're gonna be playing Lewanda's Love from Toe Jam and Earl 2, Panic on Funk-O-Tron, composed by John Baker. Oh my yes, now that was good. That was Lewanda's Love from Toe Jam and Earl 2, Panic on Funk-O-Tron, composed by John Baker. That man knows how to lay down that FM funk. What else he has done is Slam City with Scottie Pippen, Gex 3D, Army Men, Sarge's War 2, Warriors of Might and Magic, and the last credit I can find is he did audio direction for Splatterhouse, the 2010 remake. And I can honestly say, in my opinion, that this track is probably the best out of the batch I've played for you today. The patches are nice, chunky, and beefy. The whole melody, like everything about it is just so funky goodness, more of that, a little bit of that New Jack swingy kind of hip-hoppy kind of sound. Oh yes. My favorite parts is just like that really harpsichordish slap bass just kind of going all over the place, left and right, cutting off, giving it that kind of chunky gunky sound. And the game is just as wacky and funky as the music. So in the previous game, it was a treasure hunt with randomly generated levels, kind of like inspired by Rogue. And you have to find, CDs and the pieces of your ship because you crashed a lot on Earth so you can get off Earth. And you find all this stuff, and you finally get off Earth. So the second game takes place right after that. You get back to their home planet, Funk-O-Tron, and somehow humans stowed away on your ship and are just wreaking havoc all around Funk-O-Tron. So you gotta track them all down and trap them in jars so you can just get them the heck off of Funk-O-Tron. And the gameplay is now totally different. It is now a side-scrolling platformer. You get to play as both Toe Jam and Earl again. You can switch back and forth with them because they do certain things that the other can't, so you get through the levels and all, and it's just a funky, wacky time, though it's a little divisive between fans because they wanted more of the roguelike experience of the first one, but others are really liking the platformer because, platformers are the big craze and everything, so, big contingent there. And then there was a third one, and that one failed, and we don't talk about it. But what we will talk about is the last track I'm going to be playing for you today. It is Final Results from NBA Jam, composed by John Hay. Is Final Results from NBA Jam, composed by John Hay. Just keeping that jazz funk ball a bouncing. And you may be asking, hey, what's John been up to? Well, what he's been up to is Smash TV, Total Carnage, and he's done music for multiple pinball machines. So you got Demolition Man, Doctor Who, Gilligan's Island, amongst many others. Just, music and sound effects for those things. And what's the jam on this particular game? Well, you play 2v2 games with the with the roster of the 93-94 season, and it's just some wacky, not fast-paced basketball arcadey action. You get to do long shots from downtown. You get to do some really power dunks that just break the backboard. You get flaming dunks, I think, in the later on games, and the ever-present cheat for the big heads. Oh yes, you can't not play without playing with the big heads. And this kind of kicked in the popularity of like these arcade-style sports games. So we later on see it with like NFL Blitz, and I think there's like NHL Hits and MLB Slugfest. And they're just fast-paced, just always going, no slow down, no downtime, just keep going, just keep playing. And the music playing right now is just another fine example of these the patches that Gems offered being used to good effect. And unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about the rest of the tracks for the soundtrack of this game. There's always that. There's always just that, sometimes that one standout track where the composer's just like, giving it his all, and then the rest of them are just kind of being done because he just, wants to get them done and pushed out so he can move on to another project. And with that, I'm going to give you a hearty handshake and a fine farewell. Until next time you stop in VGMporium. And just to let you know, I am now on all 4 of those podcasting services. So I'm on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher now. So yeah, so go, if that's your preferred ways of listening, then go check that out. And also check out the Twitter and Instagram pages I got set up for it. It's at VGMporium. Not much going on in there other than the episode posts and all, but hopefully more soon to come. And you can find myself at RageCage on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's RAYJKAYJ. And to give you a hint as to what the next episode's going to be on, we're going to be covering remixes from a particular site that was very formative to me in my teenage years. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I'm feeling really excited about it. So yeah, once again, this has been Rage Cage, and this has been VGMporium, video game music and more. If you're having a hard time finding the gems, they will eventually find you.
I'll be back. You'll see.